Hi second prep students. Today our video will cover chapters 3 and 4 in Jane Eyre. Let's revise quickly what happened in chapter 2. We said that Dr. Lloyd spoke to Mrs. Reed about Jane going to school. She agreed, and Mr. Brocklehurst, the school manager, came and visited them and spoke to Jane. He spoke to Jane in a hard way, in a silly way. Mrs. Reed told him that Jane was a liar, so he promised to inform her teachers at school, and this disappointed Jane to start a new life in a new place. However, we remember Jane's confrontation with Mrs. Reed, and that was the end of chapter 1. Chapter 3 is the beginning of a new phase in Jane's life. Part 2 is 4 chapters. It's called A Girl at Lowood. It's talking about her life at school. And chapter 3 is called My First Impression of School. In page 12, we can see the arrangements done for Jane to go to school. It was on the 19th of January, which means it was winter and the weather was very cold. Bessie kissed her. Jane didn't want to wake her aunt to say goodbye. She was excited and nervous about school. So it was early in the morning. She took the coach with some other people. She traveled alone going to school. When Jane arrived to school, she met Miss Temple, the headmistress, who was very kind and gentle. Page 13 describes the poor conditions that were in Lowood School. Each 2 girls shared a bed. They ate little food, undelicious food. They washed with cold water. There was only one basin for 6 girls. We can see that the girls usually went to a cold, badly lit classroom for prayers. Later we will understand that Lowood School was a charity school. In page 14, the girls' breakfast was burnt porridge, so they couldn't eat. Miss Temple noticed that, so she gave orders to offer the girls bread and cheese instead. The girls were very happy, but the teachers looked at her in surprise. We will understand why in chapter 5 when Mr. Brocklehurst visits school. In the break time, Jane sees a girl reading. She started a conversation with her. Her name was Helen Burns, and she was a good, obedient, religious girl. But the next day, Jane saw Helen punished in the middle of the classroom. Jane noticed that Helen did not look ashamed or unhappy. She was lost in thought. Actually, Helen never blamed others. She thought that she should blame herself all the time. Chapter 4 Making a Friend. The next morning the water was frozen, so the girls couldn't wash. Miss Catchard, Helen's teacher, asked Helen many difficult questions, and she could answer them correctly. But the teacher shouted at her because she hadn't washed her hands that morning. Helen surprisingly didn't defend herself. Mrs. Catchard got a stick and hit Helen several times. Helen didn't cry or change her expression. Let's read together page 17, the 3rd paragraph. Later that day, during the play hour, I found Burns alone by the fireside, reading the same book as before, and I started talking to her. "What is the rest of your name?" I asked. "Helen," she replied, because people were addressed by their family names. "Do you want to leave Lowood?" "No, why should I? I was sent to school here, so I must learn as much as I can." "But Miss Catchard is so cruel to you," I burst out. "Cruel? Not at all. She is strict and she sees my faults." "If I were you, I'd hate her," I cried. "If she hit me with a stick, I'd seize it and break it under her nose." "I don't think you would," answered Helen quietly. "And if you did, Mr. Brocklehurst would send you away from school, and your relations would be upset." Anyway, the Bible tells us to do good, even if other people hurt us. Sometimes you have to put up with some hard things in life. So, from this part, we can understand a lot about Helen's character. She is kind, she loves her enemies, she is religious. She doesn't bear to hurt others, and she bears a lot from others. Let's continue reading. I could not understand her ideas, but I had a feeling she might be right. I looked at her in wonder. You say you have faults, Helen? What are they? To me you seem very good. You are wrong, she answered. I am untidy and careless, and I forget the rules. I read when I should be doing my homework. You see, Miss Scatcherd is right to scold me. We can understand here that Helen Burns is a passive person. She bears a lot from others. Others humiliate her, and she doesn't complain. She doesn't even feel that they are wrong. Now open your books, page 18. We will continue the conversation between Jane and Helen. Helen advises Jane to be good and to follow the Bible's words. So in the middle of the page you can find, she said, you should read the Bible and do what Christ says. People who believe in God should love their enemies. This is the first rule, to love the enemies. We'll continue a little down. Can you see the paragraph starting with, it's true? Okay, I'm reading it. They were talking about Mrs. Reed, how she was cruel to Jane. So, here, Helen will tell her, it's true she has been unkind to you, because she dislikes your faults, as Miss Scatcherd dislikes mine. But look how bitterly you remember every angry word. Wouldn't you be happier if you tried to forget her scolding? So here another advice, to forgive and forget the cruelty. Life is too short to continue hating anyone for a long time. We all have faults, but the time will come soon when we die. Our wickedness will pass away with our bodies, leaving only the pure flame of the spirit. That's why I never think of revenge. I never consider life unfair. I live in calm, looking forward to the end. So she is very wise and forgiveful. However, she is a passive person. She doesn't defend herself. She never defends herself. Okay, we finished here chapter 4. We have to read the chapter before we answer questions. Let's start by chapter 3 questions. Number 1. Why was it called Lowood Institution or Lowood School? Because it's a charity school. Number 2. How was Helen punished? What did Jane think about it? 3. Why did the girls complain? How did Miss Temple compensate them? How did she solve the problem? The problem of the food and the burnt food. Chapter 4 questions. There are only 3 questions. Number 1. What were Jane's and Helen's opinions of Mrs. Scatcherd? In this question, you are going to say, Jane thought that Miss Scatcherd was cruel because, and you can continue, and then you will say, on the other hand, Helen thought that Miss Scatcherd hated her faults and was only strict, and you will continue. Number 2. How did Helen's ideas differ from Jane's? You will find it clearly written in the book when they spoke together. Number 3. Show that Helen was a religious girl. Of course, it's easy because she used verses from the Bible. She loved her enemies and she advised Jane with so important pieces of advice. We finished by this part. See you next time. Goodbye.